register, make sure we're coming on live on all fronts. So excited to join everyone tonight on another Cosmic Tea Chat. Welcome. Grab your favorite beverage and sit down and join myself and Heidi. Tonight we're going to talk about tarot. So let us know in the comments, do you practice tarot? Do you have any decks? Let us know. If you do have a tarot deck, what is it? So for those of you who don't already know, my name is Kaitlyn. I am a psychic moon mentor, and I work with women to strengthen their intuition, to dive into spiritual practices, follow their curiosity, and align with their purpose and fulfillment. And today I am joined by Heidi. Heidi, would you like to introduce yourself? Let everyone know a little bit about you.
Hi, I'm Heidi, tarot healing coach. And I've been practicing tarot. And what I really do with it is I come from a place of empowerment rather than like divinity. And I really want to use it in a way to help people transform their lives and start to saying, hey, here's your future. This is what's going to happen to you. I want to sit down and say, where are the cycles are you stuck in that we can start to move you out of, so you can take control of your life again and start pushing you want to go.
Yes, and I love that you say that. As I hear you talk about that, I'm like, ooh, I do the same thing with the moon and moon energy and moon cycles, and they can help you figure out, okay, what cycle am I in? What pattern am I in? And like, does this feel good? Do I want to do this? Do I want to keep going on this route, or do I want to shift gears here? Okay, but beautiful. Yeah, so today, guys, we are going to chat about our history a little bit with tarot. So I don't know about you, Heidi, but for me, it took me a while before I actually bought my first tarot deck. It was something that I was always curious about at a younger age, definitely my teenage years. I was definitely curious about, ooh, like, what is tarot? That seems kind of fun. I don't know. It's mysterious. But I never like bought my first deck or anything until much, much later in life. And I think I just had this script in my head of like, I don't know, it's bad. Like there's just this nervous energy with it, right? Of getting feedback from other people of, oh, that's bad. You can let in like dense or dark energy and like, don't do that. Or like some of the negative stereotypes with like witch or something. And for the longest time, I guess that judgment maybe and criticism sort of kept me from following my curiosity. But what about you?
Well, I started back when I've been reading for about 13 years, and it's been on and off. I started back. It wasn't actually me that got a deck. It was one of my friends, and they're like, when you're like 16, like, oh, let's bring out the tarot cards and the Ouija boards and the light the candles. And she was like, I don't know. She's like going back and forth with the cards and the books, and I was like, oh, and for some reason the language of the tarot with the images just spoke to me, and such in all the pieces. I mean, I was still reading from the book, but I was able to, because it was my first time, I was the knowledge there, and then translate it into what was going on. High school and a little bit through college, I actually paid for some of my party drinks, my meals, by doing readings for people in my class, people in my dorm. Because, when you're in college, even though I did have a part-time job, you're still like, we have our student loan. So it was like student loan, part-time job, but you still wanted to afford the fun stuff, bring in a little income. And I set it down for about 10-ish years, family, work, and what you should be doing. And then I was brought back to really saw the value in it as a tool of transformation and healing and moving back to it. It's like, again, a fish in water, where I was just like, I'm diving into the deep end, and here.
I love that. Yeah, it took me a while, but I definitely, once I did decide, right? That power of decision. I totally did the same thing. I'm like, okay, I'm diving all the way in. So for me, I was interested in tarot about 15, 16, kind of like you were saying, but I never really got into it. And then in my 20s, I started taking action, getting more, letting myself choose my passions more and getting into passions and work more related to like fitness and what I wanted to do as opposed to customer service. And then I think it was 2017, I got fired for the first time in my life. So I was already taking action. Like I found a job as a personal trainer, but then I got fired. And then that really like sent me, and I was like, okay, forget this. I'm only doing what I want to do. I'm going to follow my curiosity, damn it. And I had a little bit of time, a little bit of downtime, right, between getting fired and my next job, which was my dream job that I manifested. But in that time, I was like, I've always been curious about tarot. You know what? I'm going to buy a deck. And I decided to buy the traditional Rider-Waite deck because I thought, I know there's a lot of beautiful art out there, but I want to learn like I want to learn the foundation a little bit. I want to learn the traditional symbolism and sort of go from there. And I made sure to limit myself too, because it's so tempting, right, to get so many decks and things. Like, oh my God, it's all so gorgeous, whether it's tarot, whether it's oracle cards.
Yeah.
But I was like, no,
Yeah.
let me learn this first, and then I'll buy decks at the right time. But yeah, I dove in, and you know, there was still a little bit of that hesitation of like, oh, is this bad? I don't know. I had a Christian upbringing, so there was some of that too. Like, is this okay? I don't know. Some opinions from, you know, family members and things, if they were conscious of it. But I was like, you know what? Forget this, right? I've always been curious about it, and if it's bad, I'll know, and I could just stop doing it. Like, it's not a big deal. But I started, and I never looked back. I still use it today.
Yeah, and that's really the power of these cards. Like everybody that I've talked to that all come to them at a time of transformation, whether it's like 16, 15, 16, you're in high school, you're becoming, and you kind of use this as a tool to help guide you, or you have a major being fired, you're becoming a mother, COVID, right?
Yeah.
And people are drawn to this because they're looking for something tangible to hang on to, that kind of it, because we're taught from such a young age to like, don't worry about your intuition, forget that, forget your inner knowing, make your pros and cons list thing, and then when that fails us, it's like, well now what? And then oracle cards or tarot cards to really be like, well, I need a way now to figure out how to go forward. Like,
yeah, definitely. And I don't know, for me, I started diving in and learning cards sort of little by little. I would just kind of play with them. I allow myself to be a little bit less structured and just start flipping through, and whatever card would pop up, I would look up the translation and sort of get comfortable with it and the symbolism. What were some helpful tools for you as you were learning?
As I was learning, that's a good question. I did a card, so I would pull a card and then I would be like, okay, let's see what I feel about it. To a book, take a look at it. One book that I love is The Ultimate Guide to the Tarot, kind of beginner's book. And that I was able, she's got Arcana as well. So I would play with the cards essentially, try different spreads, look up different meanings, and just try, and not so much like you said, I wouldn't structure it either in lessons eventually, but I would more just play with it and see what was pulled out of it, see how I'm connecting them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love it. And for so many people, you know, I hear how intimidating it is to sort of dive into this world. We have a Facebook user, I can't see the name, but they said, I don't think I have tarot cards, but I have oracle cards. And, you know, I know there's a bunch of different ways to sort of learn about tarot and incorporate them and use them. Oh, it's Heidi. Hey, Heidi, so glad you're here. They say, and someone says, "Hey, Heidi." What was I gonna say? Sorry, I'm getting distracted. Oh yes. So we have the option of like learning from a book or learning like flipping a card and seeing what the resource says. So that's sort of how I started. But I love how you mentioned like, oh, well, for me, I would look at the card and see what I got from that card, see what I picked up on that card. And after I got a little bit more comfortable with, okay, there are certain suits, right? And there are certain like major themes. Okay, I'm a little bit more comfortable with that. Then for me, that was sort of my second step. What you just mentioned was, okay, let me look at the card and see what I'm picking up. And then after I did that, I would do multiple cards next to each other and see, okay, this is what I'm getting from this card. This is what I'm getting from this card. And now how do they connect? Is there sort of a story here? How do they play together? Yeah. What about you? Do you have something similar that worked for you, or what do you encourage other people to do as they're just starting learning? Because I know so many beginners to this.
As they're just starting learning, the biggest thing I say, little white book is your friend. A lot of people, like, there's this push to being off book, and like you can't look at a book, just call from within you. And when you're like there, like you said, it's intimidating. There is so much knowledge. Tarot, the Rider Waite deck, kind of, we trace back to the early 1900s with Coleman Smith. The very first recorded deck is from Italy. It's the Visconti 1800s. So there's a lot of history here. And card meanings have changed over time. It used to be your snake oil salesman. He used to be like that slimy, like, car salesman where he's like, it represents manifestation, which is why I think it's really important to, before you even, and I always recommend having the book with you, have a little white book. It gives you the artist's intentions, jumping into history and jumping over to this book and jumping over that back. Get the artist's intentions down with what you're, especially if you're not using a Rider Waite deck to begin with, because the artist has very specific intent on what things mean in there. And it's okay. I don't consider myself optional reader because I'm constantly going back to the books. I'm constantly pulling them off the shelves and being like, let's judgment today. And you'll just read, I'll pull out all my books and they'll be all over my floor, all making comparisons, seeing what this person says, seeing what that person says. But at the end of the day, it matters when we're reading the cards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it can really be helpful to have those refreshers and sort of take your time and revisit it, right? Because no matter how long we've been practicing, I feel like, I don't know, it's a good humble practice to sort of do that, right? Versus, oh, I know this and I'm super comfortable with it. Because when you like go back into studies, maybe something else will catch your eye, or maybe something different will catch your eye. Mm-hmm. Let's see. A Facebook user says, my first deck was the Queen of the Moon. Ooh, I don't think I've heard of that, by Stacy DeMarco. And I just looked at the cards and kind of read them that way. I learned a lot, the meanings and stuff, from YouTube tarot readers. Yes, which can be so, so helpful and useful.
Oh, I love watching other people read. The beautiful thing about the tarot is that it is subjective, not objective. So even though there's the collective knowledge that we was in the history, it's very subjective, and what one card means to me and my experience with it matters. So I love watching other readers because they'll pull something out of the card that I never thought of. Oh my God, that makes total sense, right? Like, oh, now I can add this to my little bank.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm curious, for those watching, whether you guys are here live, whether you're catching the replay, how do you use tarot and or oracle cards? I'll throw those in here as well, this conversation. Do you use them mostly for yourself and reflection, or do you use them with other people? Do you do readings with other people? Let us know in the comments. I'm super curious. But let's see, Heidi. So I'm curious too, because I've talked with a lot of people since I started more a spiritual mentorship and intuitive mentorship starting in 2018, I've talked to a lot of spiritual entrepreneurs, and I've noticed sort of a common theme of like charging for services and getting out of this space for doing it for free or just doing it for friends, sort of recognizing the value in exchange and in healing.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about your experience and journey with that.
Well, like I said, I started charging back in like college and even in $5, $10, whatever, because it just paid for like the little but as things progress and as you start to learn more and bring more in, it can get uncomfortable because you think, well, I'm here to serve, I'm here to help, but why am I charging? And there is an energy exchange when you, whether you're healing, whether you and your client. And for me, I also have a life coaching background, so I can take all of that knowledge and I kind of like sandwich it in, and it's like, well, the people that I'm helping, because it's just not divination, because it's like, how can I empower you so you feel comfortable moving forward and you're valuable, right? Like, I just had a fantastic reading for a woman, and she was really, really stuck on like, you know, her own patterns and cycles. And so her and I together, we just sat down and like worked. So she's now using some of the stuff we talked about in her content. So the act of charging is that energetic exchange, because you are giving powerful advice and very powerful guidance and very powerful tips. And I know with a lot of people, there's this resistance around charge your worth, charge your worth, charge your worth. The best thing I would say is start smaller readings. If you're looking to be a professional reader, start small. Make sure you're comfortable with charging. Person, you'll charge 20, and then maybe the next person 50, and then the next person, and then 120 for an hour. So if there's some resistance around charge, start kind of small. And work your way. It builds that confidence in you as a reader. And coming in at lower prices, I say, there's nothing wrong with that, because what you're doing there is building experience for yourself. And people know that work with you at such a low price or a low value, you know, that the exchange rate is then going to be reviews, testimonials, anything like that, your experience. I kind of thought it awesome to be doing a new shift. Yeah, you know what? We all hit tarot ruts as well. When we hit a tarot rut, it's a matter of like ourselves, right? I've hit tarot ruts as well, where it's like, oh well, I'm just not in the cards, putting them down for a little bit and stepping away is totally fine. It is, and you just need to take that break so you can come at it from a fresh angle. That's my deal. That's what I do. I'm like, I'm bored. Buy a new deck.
Well, it's so tempting because there's so many gorgeous like artwork, and like it's fun to play with the new deck and see how it resonates. I mean, I do the same thing with crystals and things too, where it's like, ooh, I need a little bit of fresh energy in here, right?
Yeah, and a new deck with different art, pulling out different meanings. That's why there's a lot of us readers that have specific decks for specific reading. There'll be something in that deck that really speaks to one part of them, and they're like, oh, okay, well, in this shadow work reading, with the Rider Waite. So instead, I'm going to use Hush Tarot because it's a little darker. So that's why you see like that's why there's a beautiful art. But it's also how the art speaks to the different areas and the different assets that we are as humans.
Yeah, and I love to sort of tune into that each session, each reading with somebody is like, okay, what deck is speaking, you know, sort of reading the energy of the current session or situation, right? Like, what does this person need to hear? Sort of setting that intention. And then also, even in personal play, allowing it to be sort of flexible, right? Like, I think in the beginning, it's good to have the sort of structure, like, oh, as you're learning, maybe pull a card of the day and learn about that card or what have you. But then as you go along, letting it be different, like, ooh, I'm going to pull 3 cards today, or I'm going to try a more complicated spread. And almost like test your skills a little bit, or just change it up and have fun.
Yeah, and if people are afraid of the Celtic cross, because that's you're gonna find that spread in every tarot is the tarot, but it's 10 cards. That's so intimidating. So if you're just starting with so much depth from like 1 to 3 cards, like I have like done such in-depth 3-card spread, past, present, future. This is where you're coming from. This is where you are. This is kind of where you're heading into, and people were like, wow, that's mind-blowing in 3 cards. So you don't want if you're not there yet.
Yeah, exactly. Go easy on yourself, be gentle on yourself. And so often it's like, just let yourself go there. Like, I'm always talking to my audience about like, follow your curiosity, like just listen to that nudge, just like let yourself go. The temptation is sort of always there to like overthink, I find, or like second guess, but just play and let yourself go and let yourself roll with it. And sort of let go of those like second guessing, those little doubts as they come up. And when that happens, I don't know if you've seen this with people, or, you know, maybe you can talk a little bit more about your work too this evening. But when people do that and they just sort of play and go with it, it's just like I've seen so many times where it's like, you're on point. Like, you say you've never studied, you say you never looked at this, but you got it. Like, that is the symbolism. That's what that means. Like, trust your intuition. You go, girl.
Yeah. And that's why I love tarot cards, because it's intangible, tangible, because we know it. It's all up here or in here in our hearts, or we know how to move forward. We know what we want. Where we get stuck is in our own bullshit, where we have the shoulds and the coulds and the cycles and the patterns and the trainings. And tarot has such a way of being like, no. And even in my own professional readings, I do invite people to that I'm like, listen, if something comes up for you that I'm not saying, but you feel it, like, that's your intuition, right? We have to start retraining ourselves to live. So when it comes to reading, that's part of what I do is, please, if something in that card just like pops out at you when you see it, share it. And then sometimes the best readings are the ones that I pull fewer cards for, because I'll lay them out and I'll use the cards to ask very specific questions. Maybe sometimes a lot of it is the client looking at, you know, the cards and looking at me and listening. Oh yeah. Oh. And you see like the light bulb go off in their head, being my own way the whole time, and I'm just like
It's so beautiful. Yeah, what comes through and what shows up, and when people like allow themselves a voice, that like inner voice, those little nudges. I always find intuition to be a little bit quieter, a little bit softer information that comes through. But it's really fun to be in spaces where you can communicate that, and where other people understand what that is, what that looks like, what that feels like. And everyone, whether you're here live, whether you're here catching the replay, I want you to go get your deck. go get your deck, go get a deck, and pull a card for the full moon. So happy full moon, everyone. We have a super full moon in Virgo right now. This energy is all about definitely releasing, right? Full moons generally, it's like, okay, it's time to release. Yep. But also what we're releasing is old sort of patterns that haven't worked for us. We're releasing control and this illusion of control and having this tight grip on situations and life and choices and all the things, right, that we're trying to manifest, that we're going after, right? Have your intention in mind, release control, and stepping into really taking care of yourself, really nurturing yourself physically. Virgo is really aligned with health and physical health. And, you know, can we balance this beautiful Pisces energy of intuition and the downloads coming in and leaning into trusting that? And we don't have to control anything. There's nothing we have to do to make something show up or manifest. But can we focus our attention on taking care of ourselves and going for a walk and drinking water and eating what makes our body feel good and what helps our mind be clear and those things. So pull a card. And there's so many ways to shuffle, right? If you've never done it before, you can shuffle however which way, do whatever you intuitively feel, pull a card. Whether you're live or catching the replay, I would love it if later you take a picture of that and post it, whether you're in a group of ours, myself or Heidi's, or just on your main profile, and make the tag either Heidi or myself or both of us. I would love to see your cards. I want to see some of this beautiful artwork that everyone is working with. And yeah, let's see, what do you need to release? So I see Heidi pulled a card here. What came through for you?
So this is actually, I was just like, what does the collective need to release, since we're all here together? Well, so that way it's a message for everybody. And I was like, when it came out, I was like, well, of course, this is the card. Light Sears Tarot. And it came out the Wheel of Fortune. Beautiful. A card of change, a card of movement. And some people will read it as a card of luck. For me, you make your own luck. So when I see something like the Wheel comes out and I see her, like she's got the dice and she's standing at the poise there perfectly, but you can see we have the light and the dark on each side. That when we talk about releasing, moving forward, using tarot as a transformation tool, are you hanging on to something so tightly that you need, or are you able to let go and just wash over you? Right? If I don't know if you guys remember those little go-rinds when you were little in the playground, the ones that would, like, you would get your friends to start running and it would spin really edge. You felt those G-forces and you're like, oh my God. And if you were in the middle of it, movement at all, you just let the thing move around you. That's the Wheel of Fortune, is letting that, standing in the middle of it and just surrendering your control and let it happen.
Yeah, and leaning in, sort of letting go, right? It's like, okay, I'm going to roll the dice. I'm going to take a chance. All right, here we go. And when you pointed out the dice there, I was like, ooh, 7, right? Like lucky number 7. And we are in a 7 year, 2023 is a 7 year. And this is the 3rd full moon in a row that is taking place at 16 degrees. So I always pay attention to the numbers. I usually add them up when they're doubles. So 1 + 6 is 7. So we've got this 7, 7, 7, 7 energy, right? And I love that you said.
And it's all been like super moons too.
Oh my gosh, right? So much energy, so much influx. But yeah, and that energy makes me think of Sagittarius a little bit. And you also said, like, I make my own luck. And that to me is a very Sagittarius vibe of like, they're so hopeful and optimistic and like, it's going to work out. Like, I'm ready for this adventure. And 2, I've talked with members, especially in the Moon Manifesting Lunar Abundance community, my Facebook community, and we were chatting about how it's like all starting to come together, and we're seeing in ourselves and for those around us of like, okay, take action. We got a lot of downloads last year. We got a lot of inspirational ideas that kept us being in this energy of like, wait a second, what? I'm going to create what? Well, that feels kind of fun, but no, it doesn't really feel right to take action on that right now. What the heck is that about? And now we're finally coming into this energy after resting, after sort of debating, like, is it time to act now? Is it not? Trying to find our soul tribe and connect with other people who get these things of what an intuitive download is, and following your gut and your inspiration and your passion and your love and your joy. And now it's like, go for it. Take the small act, that Virgo energy daily to do.
If we think about what we just came out of last year, the 6, if we talk about it in tarot terms, is the Lover's year. And this talk about the Lover's card, I talk about your sacred commitment to yourself first. So last year was all this, and it's not for me, this is why we were so confused. Now we are in, like you said, a 7-year with it. And this is sacred movement. And when I talk about sacred movement, it's so much alignment that it's not even funny, which doesn't mean that it's not coming. It's scary to be like, all right, I'm throwing caution to the wind. I'm going to take my intuition. I'm going to take that rational brain. I'm going to mash them together and really create my path forward. That's like so much power there. But that's also why you're starting to take off, because now we've recommitted to ourselves. Now we are in fly and move.
Right. And let us know in the comments, guys, how are you committing to yourself? What are you committed to this year, this month, this week, tonight on the full moon? What are you committed to that's fully for you? I want to hear it. Let me know in the comments whether you're here live or catching the replay. And I didn't realize that. I love to hear you say sacred movement, because I was getting so many downloads like last night about connecting these beautiful concepts of like intuition and energy. And for me, I have a background in fitness and in health and like nurturing physical health. And literally I was having so much fun writing last night and just like, ooh, making the links of like, where does this energy live in your body and how to move that, and different exercises to connect with a certain energy and vibration and body language, and how we can express body language to really, we talk about aligning our energy, right? And sort of the law of attraction, and how do I align with what I want? And I was getting downloads about literally how you can move your body to start to align with that. So I love to hear you say sacred movement.
Yeah, and it's like a deep embodiment work to like you move forward, and somatic work, so beautiful. And you can really, like, if you are looking to your body and you have a deck, whether it's tarot or oracle, and you're struggling with that, you can. Those are the best questions. Those open-ended questions like what, how, those perfect questions for tarot cards, for oracle cards, because you can say, well, I'm struggling getting into my body. Okay, I'm going to shuffle the deck. I'm going to pull the King Cups and be like, oh, well, to get into my body, I need to reconnect to my nose out, and that will help me drop into my body. So if we talk about even using sacred movement, fitness background, that's a great way that you can bring that into it as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I was also thinking, as you were talking about, that 7 energy of sort of how scary it can be to follow that intuition and really let yourself sort of go there. I'm finding that we're sort of ending one paradigm and really stepping into another. I really think the Great Awakening is happening right now. And so many things are manifesting so quickly for so many people, but it's also like terrifying, right? Because we're not in this age, like, let's give the example of like college, for example, or school, where it's like, oh, here's your curriculum and we're going to learn this chapter and then this chapter. Like, no, that doesn't exist. Like, we want a plan, we want to be able to stick to that, but that's like, it's like dead. Like, no, it's not going to happen. So I'm finding we get like this vision of like the bigger picture, like what we really want. And then now it's like, okay, well, we need to be in the moment. We really need to be grounded. We really need to be present so we can hear our intuition, so we can hear ourselves and trust that one next step that feels the same as that big vision, right? And is exciting and a little bit scary, but we have to let go of that, like, ooh, well, I don't know how I'm going to get that big vision. Like, I should make a plan, but like, what is the plan? And then we're caught in not moving. And so it's like, no. Keep it simple. Like, today, right now, what can you do? Just do one thing. And then you're going to be shown the way. Your intuition, spirit is going to show you the way. It's a completely new paradigm.
Yeah. And if you have trouble connecting with that intuition and you have trouble like listening into yourself, because it's taking the voice inside you and putting it in a picture or a story with the background in fitness. I have a background in filmmaking, so for me it's all about what's telling me, what story is laid out in front of me, and then how does that connect with my client's current situation, and how is it going to help them move forward.
Yes, exactly. Oh my God, I love it. Does anyone have any questions? Do you have any questions about tarot? Let us know. Do you have any questions about this full moon energy? Drop a comment. And Heidi, is there anything that you want individuals to know about your work or how they can work with you?
Yeah, sure. If you want to, on both Facebook and Instagram. Facebook is Tarot Healing Coach. Instagram is Tarot Healing Coach. And just like slippy sliding, or if that is like, because I know there's issues people reaching out to somebody, comment on something, drop an emoji, and I love people. So even if you just want to be like, hey, can I just like hang out? Can I just come hang out, come party? And the work I do, like I said, are more about empowerment. So if you're feeling like you're stuck in a situation, especially if you're going through what dark night of the soul, where you're feeling lost, where you're feeling like I have all of these, but I don't know how to choose, or you feel like you have these opportunities, but there's something that's blocking you. Those are my favorite readings, because we can just get so deep into the cycles, into the patterns, so you can start to give guidance to move forward. So you can be like, oh, okay, well, me not feeling good enough over here is why I'm not chasing my dream. And then we can take a look at changing your thoughts, changing the way you see yourself, so you can start chasing your dreams.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, exactly. And for anyone watching or catching the replay, if you just want to hang out and be in our world, like both of us, we love having conversations like these. We love talking about all the things. So please, like, come to us, come hang out in our spheres and our groups, hop in the DMs. Like, we are all about connection. And for anyone watching who is a spiritual entrepreneur and you're ready to go to the next level, I want to invite you into Own Mastermind, which I'm so freaking excited about, to do a lot what we were talking about today, right? We're sort of mastering and finding a balance between, okay, these visions, these intuitive downloads, like I know my purpose is bigger than what I'm currently doing. But how do I reach that goal? And balancing the practical, the daily to-dos, to own your energy, to own your purpose, to own your joy, to own your fulfillment in life and this journey. And if you are ready for that, if you want to go to the next level, whether that's in your business or something else to call into abundance, I want to help you. Own Mastermind is a beautiful group energy where we're going to connect with other people, have conversations like this, like we just did this evening. And I'm going to work with you to help you in this beautiful mastermind collective where you can have these conversations and ask questions to other spiritual entrepreneurs, to where we can help you create your offer and help you figure out, what do you need? What do you really need to get started, right? Because you might not need a website. You might not need the business cards and things. There are so many things. And it's like just about starting now. So if you're curious about that, drop OWN in the comments, OWN. You're ready to own this year, own your pleasure and your passion. We are starting 3/21. It's 12 weeks. There's 11 spots available. Drop OWN in the comments if you're curious, or hop in my DMs. You can find me on Instagram, Psychic Moon Mentor, and many of you are in my Facebook group as well, Moon Manifesting Lunar Abundance. And yeah, I'm just so excited. Thank you so much, Heidi. This was such a beautiful conversation. I had so much fun today.
Thanks for having me on. This was fun. I mean, anytime I get a chance to talk tarot, I'm like, yes. I was in a hermit mode. Oh, the hermit. It's one of my favorite cards, because the hermit, I always think of the heart chakra with the hermit, because it's aligning yourself and taking lantern, and that lantern is your heart space. That lantern is your heart chakra energy, and shining it out, going internal to bring it external and really find your path. So I'm glad to see.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. Yeah, and that hermit energy too, that makes me think of like a cocoon, right? Or like a chrysalis, and we're like protecting ourselves and we're shielding ourselves and we're going in, and there's this deep transformational work that's going on, and it's messy and it's painful, and we kind of want to be alone and secluded because we feel so tender. And I can definitely resonate with that energy for these last few months. Oh my goodness.
Well, enjoy it, because at the end of the month, I know that Pluto's moving into Aquarius, so that's going to be huge shifts. And in April, retrograde planets, so that'll slow things down a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. I'm just excited that actually today, with the full moon, Saturn is moving out of Aquarius and into Pisces, because my Saturn is in Aquarius. So I was experiencing my first Saturn return. So if any of you know about that, that's a lot of deep lessons, heavy lessons, a lot of change, potentially big life things happen usually around these times. So I'm like, I made it through. I survived. So I'm going to go celebrate tonight. Make sure to celebrate, guys, with this full moon energy, because yes, the full moon is about release, but it's also about celebration and having fun and like taking a look at everything you've manifested. So make sure to take a picture of that card that you drew this evening for what you need to release this full moon, and tag both of us, Heidi and myself, Kaitlyn. And yeah, so exciting. Happy moon manifesting, everyone.
Happy moon manifesting.